Hey, welcome to the first video in this series where I practice things that I learned from my CFI in the real world in a flight simulator. Now I say a flight simulator because I'll probably be switching between Flight Simulator 2020 and Xplane. I'm in Xplane right now. And the reason why I'm going to be using this probably for the first several videos is because I found this carbureted 172 that matches pretty closely what I fly in the real world. So we have the carb heat and the throttle and mixture, so I can use this with my throttle box and practice those scenarios so that I don't need to know this, or I don't need to remember the steps. I have the steps down, so when I'm in the air, I can just focus on the plane. Now today we're going to be flying out to the west and then flying southwest a little bit and doing some slow flight maneuvers and then coming on back. Next video, I'm going to be doing stalls. I've already learned those, but I didn't want to try to tackle it for this first video because I'm not sure how this video is going to go. And then I have some other videos planned where I'm going to be taxiing from where I normally start from in the real world, doing my full pre-flight checklist, taxiing, doing my run up and all that, and then taking off. So first thing I want to do is open this plugin that I need right now. And if I just go to my plugin settings, knob XP, and recover that. Oops, sorry, just hit the mic, but let me put this over here. So what this allows me to do is my Knobster button here, I can long press that and change this to different parts of the airplane and control those. So I can change this to my gyro setting, and you can see I'm changing my heading indicator here. So let's go ahead and get this started up real quick. I'm not going to do the checklist right now. I'm just going to do a quick startup. So we'll turn on our master, make sure the beacon's on. We're on the runway, so I'll turn the landing and taxi lights on. We'll go full rich on the mixture, crack the throttle about 1/4 of an inch, and we're on both for the fuel. I don't need to prime it. So I'm going to go ahead and okay, we're fired up, and this is telling us that we need to align our compass. Yeah, so let's do that. So we're on the gyro heading for knob XP, and we're just gonna line up our compass heading now. So let's go to right about there-ish. And then what I want to do is turn on my avionics master and switch the knob XP over to my radio and get the current settings for
1800 Zulu weather. Wind calm.
I'm just doing the default clear weather, but I want to get the barometer setting here.
Dew point -7. Altimeter 2992. Arriving runway 28 left. Departing runway 28 right. Advise on initial contact you have November.
Yeah, I was talking and I missed it, so let's listen again. Looks like we have it set. It's at 2992 roughly right now.
Boise Air Terminal Gowan Field Information November. 1800 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility 7. Sky clear, temperature 9, dew point -7. Altimeter 2992.
Yeah, so we are right on for that. Okay.
Runway 28 right.
All right, so I'm just going to do a quick takeoff here. Turn off, put my brakes on, turn off my parking brake, and go full throttle. Line ourselves down the runway with a little bit of rudder. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate. And trim things out a little bit. It should be set for takeoff trim, but now I am using the Orbex scenery, so it's a little bit different than the default Xplane scenery, but you know, it's nothing compared to the new, or not new, but Flight Simulator 2020, which, like I said, I will be using that when I start doing VFR stuff. But for right now, just getting these maneuvers down with the carb heat and everything, I want to make sure that I'm flying a plane that matches what I fly in real world as closely as possible. So even though we're in the sim and there's not any other traffic, I'm trying to get into the habit of scanning and just looking for outside the cockpit, because I have a bad habit of looking inside the cockpit more than I'm looking out. So just trying to get into some good habits. So we're gonna turn to the left here a little bit and go go to about 23 degrees here. And then I'm going to go up to about 6,000, level out, and then do some clearing turns and slow flight. Now, I am by no means CFI. I've had like 3 hours total in a plane. So if anybody has any suggestions, that has more experience, if they see something that I'm doing wrong or that I can be doing differently, please let me know. And also, anything I talk about in these videos, you know, take it with a grain of salt, because I am not an instructor. I'm going to talk about stuff that I learned, but that shouldn't be used to try things in the real world. In the sim, it's fine, but not in the real world. So I'll have timestamps in this video because it might be a little bit long, so you can jump ahead. You can fly with me until we get to 6,000, or you can jump ahead to 6,000, and you know, we'll start doing the slow flight. But right now I'm just enjoying the scenery. I mean, it's Xplane 11 scenery. And the reason why I'm not using Xplane 12 is because I do my flying primarily in VR. Not all the time, but most of the time, and Xplane 12 does not work well for me in VR. Xplane 11 works fine, but I have some huge anti-aliasing issues to the point where it's basically unplayable for me in VR, so this is working just fine. Alright, I'm gonna slowly start leveling out a little bit here. Start adjusting the trim, and also bring this back to kind of a good cruising speed. Drop a little bit of altitude. Let's see if we can get this trimmed up a little bit. Now, one thing I've noticed is that this trim wheel on the Honeycomb Bravo throttle quadrant works way better in Xplane than it does in Flight Simulator. I have to spin this thing like crazy. I've tried adjusting the sensitivity and everything, but yeah, I can't get it to work well in Flight Simulator. Works pretty well in here, though. Alright, let's trim it out a little more and drop a little bit of altitude. All right, we're looking pretty good right there. So I am going to go into my slow flight by pulling out or pulling on the carb heat and dropping the throttle down. Trying to keep my altitude here. Start dropping flaps. Try to bring this up a little bit, stay within that range. And the range is, from my understanding, it's 100 feet. So we'll try to get our speed back up a little bit here. Want to stall it out. Okay. So we are in slow flight. And one thing that I just realized I forgot to do is I didn't do my clearing turns. So before I do this, I'm gonna get out of slow flight here. Get back up to speed. Alright, looks like our gyro is out of alignment again. We get things stabilized here. Alright, so now let's mess with the gyro. Looks like it's pretty close. And I'm gonna get my altitude back to 6,000 and then we'll do some clearing turns and then try the slow flight again. Now, like I said, I have 3 hours in the plane. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm doing this stuff perfectly. If I make mistakes like that, I'm leaving them in the videos. This is not to try to show that I know what I'm doing here. This is to help me learn how to fly. And I figure if I'm going to make mistakes, I'd rather do it in here than in a real plane. So okay, so let's do some clearing turns. I'll do a 90-degree turn to the left here. And a little bit of rudder. So another thing I keep catching myself doing, putting both hands on the yoke. I'm trying to get used to just using the one hand. And one hand on the yoke, one hand on the controls to adjust speed. It's about 90 degrees, so let's level out here. Okay. I'm gonna bring it back to the right. I'm not seeing anything. Again, there won't be anything because I don't have any other traffic turned on, but still want to get into that habit. let's get trimmed out again. Get down to 6,000 feet. I'll get it trimmed out, and then we'll do the slow flight. Drop a little bit of altitude here. All right, so let's go ahead. This trimmed a little more. Let's go ahead and start slow flight again. So carb heat on, reduce the throttle, maintain altitude to drop the speed under 110 so I can start pulling down flaps and adjust for the ballooning effect. Start adding some throttle back in. Okay, good. We are in a nice, steady, slow flight here. Trying to get this trimmed out a little bit to help me out. Give it some throttle just to gain a little bit of altitude back. Okay. So now I am gonna do a 90-degree turn to the left here. Okay. Drop some of this altitude here. And then we're going to do a 90-degree turn to the right. Go too steep here. Okay, and then I am going to recover from slow flight, carb heat off, throttle full, start bringing the flaps up. Gotta turn off that directional gyro warning. I'm trying to get back to 6,000 and set the cruise speed here, and then I'll trim it. All right, we're looking pretty good right there. So that is the slow flight, and I am just going to call it a day because this video has already been long enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tune in the... Actually, you know what? We already have the nav tuned in for the nearest VOR, so I'm going to adjust my OBS for nav 1. So it looks like we have to turn to about 6 degrees. I'm going to start dropping some altitude. Adjust this a little bit more. All right, I think I'm going to call it here because, you know, I haven't learned landings yet. I've done one landing with the instructor talking me through it, so I'm not going to try to do it in here just yet. So I'm going to call the video here. But thanks for stopping by. If you want to see the videos where I practice the stalls and then, you know, the checklist and taxiing down the runway in a full flight, make sure you subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments about anything that happened in this video, anything I can do differently to make things a little easier on myself, or that I just did completely wrong, let me know that too. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I will see you in the next video.